It's Brian Preston, the money guy.
So here's the one of common advice you hear that you need to be careful of is go to college because student loan debt is good debt.
You should always invest in yourself. I love that's the way people talk. You should always invest in yourself.
I mean, and look, we now have, because we're getting close to election years, student loan debt is getting a lot of play because there's candidates out there talking about they just go, poof, it's all going to disappear one day. They're going to just go forgive all this debt. So it's definitely something to think about. But here's what I think is interesting. Is college always the right decision? And I have a hunger for education, wisdom. So this is not me saying college is for suckers. I don't think that, but I do think you have to measure twice, cut once on making sure it fits, because there was a study in 2015 that 44.6% of college grads under 27 are working in careers that don't require college degrees. That's almost half.
So half of the folks out there are in a job that did not require them to pay the cost that they paid for a college education.
Another thing I wanted to kind of throw out there is, what does it cost to go to school, and what is this inflation? I mean, we hear about inflation, but why is inflation on college so much more than it is for every other part of it seems like the economy? I have an illustration to pull up. I went to the University of Georgia. I know another guy sitting to my left here that went to the University of Georgia.
Go Dogs.
We have an intern that is also from the University of Georgia. So we thought it'd be interesting if we went and pulled what each of us paid to go to the same college.
Yep.
Now look, I got an accounting degree, so it probably nudges that value over a little more on the value proposition, but it's still
give those things away.
but look at this. Now look, I am so old. I graduated in 1996. How old are you? I graduated in 1996. The chart didn't go back to that, but it did go to 1998. So
Can I just talk
enough.
about how exciting it is that you graduated so long ago? We couldn't even pull the data on the chart
I'm sure if we'd dug a little harder, we could have found the data. But 1998 is close enough, because I tell everybody when they say, how much did it cost to go to college when you went? I was like, $3,000, because it was. I went to a state school, UGA.
I think that's like the cost of like the meal plan these days.
Well, now you look at it. Well, it's the same thing. My parents bought a house, and I remember when I first moved to Atlanta, right out of college, I was paying more in rent a month than my parents were for their full
mortgage?
house. And by the way, I was the third of the rent, because
So
we took the
1/3
rent,
of it.
split it in a third. It's the same way with education. If you look at my cost of education, what's on the screen right now, it's a little under $3,000 a year.
Yep.
Look at Bo. Bo graduated in 2008. It was $6,000, almost double the amount. And then look at Daniel, one of our interns. He's at $12,000. Man, my $3,000 looks like a steal. So if you actually calculated what's the annualized inflation on this, it's 7%.
Yep.
It's
It's
a lot.
unbelievable if you think about it.
That is a lot.
What would it be like if the other items in our lives, the things that we buy on a daily basis, toilet paper, Oreo. I don't know why toilet paper and Oreo is the first two consumer products that came to my mind.
That's not. Most people usually say like coffee,
toothpaste,
Coca-Cola, bread, toilet paper. All right, and Oreos.
And Oreos, I get that's
all right.
That's what we buy.
We'll go with it.
But imagine if those sort of things inflated at 7%, the same way that tuition is. There'd be an outrage and an outcry. And so I think, I think the point that we're making is you need to measure twice and cut once, because some of those basic necessities you can't live without, like toilet paper and Oreos. There may be certain scenarios where you might not need to go rack up student loan debt only because it's what someone told you should do, or you think it's the natural next evolution of your process.
So let's talk about the better way. Here's the steps and things to think about. I think we say this saying all the time because it's this important, is begin with the end in mind.
Yep.
So when you are in college and you're choosing your major, figure out what the anticipated rate of return, anticipated first year salary will be for that position, and make sure your student loan debt doesn't exceed that amount. That's a great thing if you're in that situation. Now, if you're a person that's already come out of school and you've got this student loan debt, you're like, well, thanks. I wish I'd have heard that 4 years ago.
Sure.
But now we get you in a situation where you have to just I did this yesterday for a client that was a prospect that was in the office, and they had student loan debt, and I was walking them through. They had 5 different student loans.
Okay.
We put them in order and looked at the interest rates, and the ones that were going to be long-term, hurtful to their future. I told them, let's pay it off
off
early. Let's
quick.
come up
Yep.
with a plan to pay it off. But then they had a few student loans that were in the 3 range. I was like, well, that's not
okay.
That's not predatory or really going to be punitive type of interest rates. So
Yep.
we'll work that into the debt repayment plan, but it's not going to be something that we're going to forego all savings to pay off that student
That's right.
loan. So you have to pay attention to the jobs, pay attention to the market. What I would say also is pay attention to what type of school you're going to. If you know that what you're going to be doing for a living is not going to generate a ton of money, please don't go run up a ton of student loan debt. It just does
doesn't make
not
sense.
make sense to do that. Be very realistic about what your income proposition. My daughter is going to a camp right now, and it's something I think she wants to do for a living. I will tell you, it's more on the artistic side, which is great. I'm very excited because she's talented, but she's also super analytical. My daughter is wicked smart in math. So I had the conversation where I said, look, I love that you're taking this camp. I said, and you think you want to do this for a living? She goes, yeah. I said, have you thought about the fact that it's probably not ever going to pay a ton of money? And she goes, I have actually, Dad. And I said, well, does that stop you? And she goes, no, I think I like it enough. That'd be okay. Not making a ton of money with it. And I was like,
That's
okay,
noble.
I get
Yeah.
it. So as long as we check the boxes and knew that, I think that's the decision. And then you can apply that same logic and that same check the box mentality to how much debt are you willing to incur and which schools do you go to?
So as a parent, given that conversation, given what you're probably not going to send her to a really expensive, super prestigious private school, even if she could get in. I mean, we had someone in here said, yeah, what if my kid gets into Stanford or Princeton? That's awesome if they get in. That's wonderful. But if the degree that they're going to get from that school is not going to be the vocation they move into.
And I'm not going to tell you what those degrees, I don't want anybody writing us hate mail
Yeah, sure.
because we name some degree that's probably not going to pay well. But also, I want to tell you, every time my air conditioner has gone out twice, because it was a gizmo that I had on my system. It's not because I have a lemon system. Every time I have a technician come out to my house and I have to write that minimum check, a tradesman is not the worst thing in the world. I can tell you, back in Georgia when I worked in public accounting, one of the biggest clients that I worked on was the owner of an air conditioning company.
Okay.
And so there are jobs out there as careers and other things. Guys, if you can, because the research out there shows it, that you can get a 4 years bachelor degree does make more money, but a 2-year program as a percent, if you compare the cost of education to earning potential a
Sure.
few years out, it's not as big as you think.
Yep.
So just be careful. Think about that. If you're good with your hands and you don't love sitting in a classroom, there is
not
a
a crazy
lot of
idea.
opportunity in what's going on in the economy right now. So give that a thought.